And now one idea that's getting a lot of attention is the Dems need to find their Joe Rogan, a liberal Joe Rogan, because that's why Kamala lost. Republicans have a podcast. Okay, maybe. Or you could consider this. Instead of conjuring up a new Joe Rogan, ask yourself why you lost the old one. Because he used to be on your side. But I watched the evolution of both these guys. This didn't happen overnight. In 2022, before he owned Twitter, Elon tweeted this chart depicting how he felt about the liberal side having shifted so much that it left a basically liberal centrist like him now labeled a conservative. I related to the kind of mean girl shit you get from the cool kids in Wokeville.
Bill Maher just lit up the Democratic Party in good old-fashioned no-holds-barred fashion. He laid into them with a flamethrower, accusing them of betraying their own, gaslighting important allies, and driving people away. Maher's brutal criticism shook the ranks to the core, and I've got every incendiary moment here. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on.
Too early to strategize. Democrats have been having a lot of donor retreats lately where liberal strategists hold ideathons, where they try to figure out why they keep losing elections. You know, apart from using words like ideathon. And now one idea that's getting a lot of attention is the Dems need to find their Joe Rogan, a liberal Joe Rogan, because that's why Kamala lost. Republicans have a podcast.
It's a firestorm like this. I'll roll the next segment of the clip in a minute, but first, let's get real. The Democrats are in scramble mode following their shellacking last November. And while that sense of urgency is natural, solutions in the real world won't be coming from think tanks or echo chambers regurgitating the same old tired talking points. If they're serious about restoring, they must begin by listening to their own constituents, to truthful critics, and to the uncomfortable realities looming in front of them instead. They're throwing around ridiculous suggestions like finding their own Joe Rogan as if
According to a new Gallup poll, 45% of Democrats want the party to move to the center, which is up 11 points from 4 years ago. Now, whenever a political party finds a real star president, the other side always says, well, we have to find our Bill Clinton, our Reagan, our Obama. Well, the Democrats need to find their Trump. Not the authoritarian part, but the part where a politician bonds with everyday Americans because he talks like them. And the good news for Democrats is they have that guy, and his name is John Fetterman. After the election, instead of curling up in a ball, Fetterman went to Mar-a-Lago, where Trump assumed he was one of the guys from January 6th.
For the genuine article, Bill Maher calls out the BS and completely flays them for it. What he has to say next? It's enough to drive the party into a complete tailspin. I've been saying this for weeks. Some of the loudest voices defending Republican ideals today were once die-hard Democrats. These weren't moderates. They despised conservatives, attacking everything from their policies to their personalities. But then the woke virus exploded, and rather than stand in its way, Democratic leaders just let it run. They watched as it chased out loyal, sane voices individuals who still shared basic liberal beliefs but could no longer abide the rising extremism. And now those same liberals are astounded, outraged, really, that former comrades have abandoned them. But what did they expect? You can't insult, shame, and shut down your...
And that's the kind of gay-adjacent respect Trump usually reserves for Putin. Trump and Fetterman actually have a lot in common. They're both plain-spoken anti-elitists who come from money, married exotic immigrant ladies, went to Ivy League schools, and aren't afraid to take on their own party. And when the wind catches Trump's hair just right, they're both 6'8". Look, here's the thing. Voters aren't really savvy about the issues, but they do have made it clear what is important to them.
You can't abandon reason for dogma and have people hang around, and you certainly can't disregard reality and then be shocked when it comes back and blows up in your face. Bill keeps up his scorched earth critique, threatening Democrats with the political blowback of moving too far left, particularly the unbridled adoption of woke ideology. He points to an uncomfortable reality that many on the left don't want to admit. People aren't necessarily voting Republican because they adore Trump. On the contrary, a lot of them don't care for him at all. But worse than that, they dislike being incessantly lectured and shamed and reminded that their deeply held convictions make them
authenticity, balls, and charisma. Trump has that package, and so does Fetterman. He's only been a senator 2 years, and he's already more famous than most of his colleagues. Quick, I dare you to name this sad-looking lady from Washington State who's been in the Senate for 30 years. You can't teach charisma or balls. Fetterman is that rare Democrat who's not afraid to put the woke nonsense peddlers in his own party in their place, saying things like, wanting a secure border and realizing that it was out of control, that doesn't mean you're a xenophobe or a racist. He's been unequivocally pro-Israel, as are most Americans, and when pro-Palestinian protesters showed up at his home, he went up on the roof and waved an Israeli flag.
Of being bullied with a stern new dogma, one that disciplines dissent and declares everything to be offensive. That anger is coalescing into a consequential backlash. And if the Democrats continue to discount it, they do so at their own risk. I don't see Democrats giving up on what's essentially their new religion: identity politics, racial essentialism, and a hypersensitive culture in which even elementary disagreement is labeled hate speech. Elon Musk's public falling out with Donald Trump may appear to be a promising fissure in the opposition for Democrats, a sign that not everybody on the other side is goose-stepping in formation. But let's not rush to judgment. The question is, will Democrats break with the woke virus that's now central to their party identity? This is where I disagree with Bill Maher. He still thinks the party can change its ways. I don't. And no, they won't challenge trans activists even when logic requires it. They've signaled as
I'm not going to pretend I can really think about anything other than the Trump-Elon thing. Well, I mean, when you think about it, the richest man in the world and the most powerful man in the world, it's like Godzilla versus King Kong. If Godzilla was on ketamine and King Kong had a Como.
Clearly as possible, they'd lose voters before they could risk being called insensitive. That's not a political plan. That's ideological suicide. Until they are confronted with that reality, no Elon Musk versus Trump soap opera is going to make a difference. The public feud between Elon Musk and Donald Trump isn't necessarily forever, although, okay, some harm is done. These are two powerful ego-driven men with gigantic platforms, so conflicts were inevitable, but history demonstrates that political friendships never last, and I wouldn't put it past them to make amends down the road. Trump endured worse storms and emerged to win the presidency, after all, so deeming this spat the end of his politics is optimistic at best. The actual point, rather than reveling in what they perceive as Trump's collapse, Democrats should single-mindedly focus on positioning themselves as a superior alternative.
Change. Maybe this will put quietus to the nonsense that Elon and Rogan too went to the dark side. I hear that all the. They went to the dark. Yeah, like they got that The Last of Us fungal infection and became zombies. No, they just got driven away. Because that's how politics works these days. One side gets elected precisely because the other side was just in power and pushed their agenda way too far and drove people in the opposite direction. The pendulum swings back and forth with people not voting for anything, but just to get rid of the latest extremist assholes who tried to remake America in their image instead of just governing.
Culture war distractions and divisive rhetoric. It requires ending the wokeism obsession, which only drives away the voters they must reclaim. Democrats can only lead, however, if they can demonstrate they can govern, not just obstruct. Each person has his or her own idea of what America ought to be and which version best represents its ideals, so ideological disagreement is unavoidable. That's not the actual issue. The actual danger is extremism in either direction. When political parties more readily engage in purity tests and emotive indignation than actual solutions, democracy begins to totter. Something that Bill Maher appears to lack is that for the average American, abstract ideology comes in second to pragmatism. Individuals don't really care about political designations, but rather whether they can buy food, have their children attend a quality school, receive quality health care, and be able to live securely under the freedoms provided by the Constitution.
Well, right now, it's the Republicans who are the very definition of drunk with power, and also sometimes just drunk. But the drunk with power part, that's what Democrats should pay attention to, because you know who's easy to beat in a fight? A drunk. Really, I've done it. Now, I was also drunk, so it was a draw. But the point is, Trump owns the lowest 100-day job approval rating of any president. Only 39% approve of his handling of the economy, which was always his forte. You know, it's not like anyone was asking for tariffs. Do you think the bros and the bras, you think they want to pay $150 more for a PlayStation? You think they want the government to ban abortion and ban pornography? And do lots of other far-right stuff that's in the Project 2025 blueprint? Please, their project for 2025 is trying to get laid.
Common sense, social programs, and freedoms guarded. Those are the things that really concern ordinary Americans. Without them, political discourse is just background noise. Most folks don't desire a culture war, they desire stability. And until our politicians understand that, they're going to continue to lose precisely those people whom they say they represent. It's definitely early days, and statistics are often notoriously unreliable. Recall when so many pollsters boldly called the 2024 election for Kamala Harris before reality crashed into them like a freight train. So no, we can't definitively state that Trump is losing ground among his base. He still has high enthusiasm, rallies still draw enormous crowds, and grassroots support is by no means lost. Meanwhile, let's not think Democrats are just sitting on their hands hoping for a victory. They're causing their own share of chaos. Too even in opposition, from shoving far-left gender policies down school students' throats, to attempting censorship of contrarian voices on the internet, to using government agencies to politicize and silence their conduct.
Yeah, it's not just Democrats who aren't really digging Trump too. Adding trillions more debt is not sitting well, and even the likes of Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro have called out the corruption. Even the deporting of illegals, which America generally supports, is pissing people off now. I read a story last week about this town of Kennett, Missouri, where just about everyone voted for Trump, but now is pissed because ICE removed their favorite waitress, a beloved local mother of 3 named Carol Hui, currently facing deportation back to Hong Kong. One local woman said, "No one voted to deport moms. We were all under the impression we were just getting rid of the gangs. This is Carol."
And independence. They're doubling down on identity politics, demonizing parental rights movements, and allowing far-left activists to dictate their messaging. All of this creates more division and gets even center-left voters to question where they are. So before anyone writes off Trump or makes a big bet on a Democrat resurgence, keep in mind, the political terrain is still up for grabs, and it's anyone's game. Let's be real. Trump made a gutsy, clear vow to clamp down on illegal immigration and deport those here illegally. For many Americans, that resonated. Illegal immigration can put a strain on public resources, overwhelm border towns, and even contribute to crime in some regions. So yes, taking action decisively could solve actual issues caused by individuals who are violating immigration laws, but it's not black and white. A one-size-fits-all.
When you elect a bull to run through the china shop, sometimes the china that gets broken is you. Republicans have taken full advantage of how snobby and out of touch Democrats have become to claim the title of party of the working class, but Trump's big, beautiful budget cuts Medicaid by $723 billion. Steve Bannon says a lot of MAGA is on Medicaid. Yeah, it is. 42% of MAGA voters say Medicaid is important to them. Let's see if they miss it.
Who've been here for years, who work hard and pay taxes and have been good neighbors. Some of these individuals have families, children born in the US, and no police records whatsoever. Sending these individuals along with repeat criminals and gang members isn't just logistically unworkable, it's also morally complex. True leadership takes more than the exercise of enforcement. It takes discernment. Repairing the system should not involve shattering lives in the process. The problem with Medicaid and wider healthcare reform is undoubtedly complicated, but Maher is not far off when he comments on how we arrived here. Much of the responsibility lies with the Democrats, who grew too snobbish, too smug, and too interested in appearances rather than results. Rather than working to pass concretes policies to better the lives of ordinary Americans, they spent all their energy critiquing Trump on every possible front. They bet that media attention, emotional appeals, and an endless barrage of anti-Trumpism would be enough to win over hearts and mind. But as they were preoccupied with crafting headlines and telling stories, actual issues such as runaway healthcare, costs, gaps in Medicaid coverage, and lengthy wait times remained unattended to. Ultimately, their fixation on demonizing Trump boomeranged. Americans don't crave political theater, they crave results. And when they don't arrive, voters begin to seek out anyone who will upend the system. Leadership isn't about who yells the loudest or throws the biggest punch. It's about getting results that count. Trump's weaknesses are obvious, but so are the Democrats' blunders. If they wish to be victorious, they have to abandon the woke cult, reconnect with the normal American, and present authentic solutions. Otherwise, history could repeat itself, and the voters will once more vote for disruption instead of the smooth, out-of-touch political establishment. And that is the end of today's video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for similar content. Thanks for watching.